All right, guys, welcome back to the Orion Sportscast. I'm Josh Egan here along with Brandon Waterhouse. Episode 1 was pretty well received, and we're going to continue rolling here. We got a couple special episodes coming out. Wednesday, we have a Women in Sports special, and on Monday, we're going to be doing a very special interview. If you're a big fantasy sports guy, especially hockey, you're going to really enjoy that interview, and we'll release more details about that over the weekend. So today I was walking my dog, and I was about 80 yards away from the door to come in. And as I got closer, about 20 yards out, I just fell over randomly. Does that remind you of anything that happened in the NFL last night?
Yeah. So last night we had the Thursday night football game, which somehow was, you can be scripted into it as it was a race for the NFC first place East. But it was really sad actually because I'm a Giants fan, so I actually didn't see any much else on entertainment last night. So I turned on the game and I started watching, and I saw a very nice touchdown from Sterling Shepard, and then I watched this 80-yard run from Daniel Jones, which
he was clear. He was
with the for sure touchdown was probably one of the hardest things to watch with no one in his sight. It just fell straight over. I felt super. It was very, very, very descriptive.
I thought it was hilarious.
Giants fan. And but other than that, the Giants actually were holding
I think it was
they were holding a 6-point lead or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like a one possession lead at least going into the last couple minutes, and then they were actually locking it down on defense and holding up them and holding they actually stopped the Cardinals at like the 2 or 3 and then turned it back upfield for a punt. But then this one play, Carson Wentz went for like 40, 50 yards in the air, and it kind of just turned the whole tables real quick, and the Giants didn't expect it. Couldn't turn it over. We couldn't turn it into anything, and we had the ball back at the end of the game. But to say that it was an entertaining game for all NFL fans is nothing short of a lie. So
yeah, I mean, I watched a little, like maybe the first 3 quarters, and then I'd be honest, I flipped over to Big Brother because I wanted to see who was getting evicted. So
you know what I mean? Like personally,
yeah,
I was just like,
I wasn't invested whatsoever.
For me, it was like, oh my God, like, you kidding me? We could be first placer right now in the NFC least. It was a pretty big deal, squeak in there and maybe we grow, but now I can't say we're too far behind, but it's just like a super winnable game when you lose by 1 point.
And if they had got that 80-yard touchdown, that probably would put the game away, especially with a 1-point game.
Yeah. So
turn it into a 2-possession game. But that was, I think that might have been the worst Thursday night football game I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
And we had Browns Bengals this year too on a Thursday night. So, but at least that one had some excitement behind it with Joe Burrow and making his debut there. So, but so there's a couple more news items coming out of the NFL. I think one I definitely want to get into is Odell Beckham Jr. has been making the news quite a bit. He had 2 kind of stories come out at once, one with LSU and one about COVID-19. And the COVID-19 one isn't really that big. He was just saying that he doesn't think he'll catch COVID-19 because there's a mutual respect between him and the virus and that it just won't enter his body. So that's 2 things he can't catch now, a cold and a football. So we'll see how if he gets COVID, that's definitely going to be one of the bigger stories of the year, I think. And then this LSU thing, do you want to explain what happened there?
Yeah, first of all, to go on the first part of the Odell news with the coronavirus thing, I think the internet will be super fast to jump on it if anything ever happens to him. So it's going to be a real big slap on the face, and I'm sure he even knows that. But I can't see all the truth in that. So I know he's a jokester, he's a funny guy, but that also leads into how I've been seeing a lot of things on the internet leaning towards both sides of the argument. And the argument is like, whether or not Odell Beckham deserves a 2-year ban from LSU and all the LSU facilities after what was recorded on camera last year when LSU won the national championships. He was high-fiving some of his I guess they're also friends on the team that are much younger than him that are probably the best players on their team, and they were superstars and receivers rather. So as he was giving them high fives, he had bundles of cash in his hand, and he did this on camera twice. And to say that this is whatever, what do they think, tampering or something that's against code of conduct is it's sad, because when you understand that Odell played there and then he's coming back and he's kind of supporting the athletes, and he's almost like pushing them in a sense that if you do as you achieve, you can be in my shoes, which isn't the greatest shoes, but he's in the NFL and now he has a great amount of deals, sponsorships with Nike, and he's Odell Beckham Jr. He gets a lot of publicity. So at the same time that the colleges aren't really lenient on giving their athletes any type of bursaries, payments, or whatever, and then you see the one time where someone, alumni, nonetheless, goes out of his way to kind of just,
who should know the rules,
right? Who goes out of the way to, and he knows he was being filmed, which is hard because he could have easily done that behind closed doors.
Yeah,
but he chose to like flex
that cash. I mean, I see this two ways. It wasn't the NCAA that handed out the suspension; it was LSU.
Right.
So I think the NCAA went to LSU and said, "Look, you do something about it, or we're going to do something about it." Because it was either going to be Odell Beckham Jr. getting that suspension, or it was going to be a punishment on LSU. And I think they said, "Okay, we'll suspend him from our campus." I mean, he doesn't really need to be there anyway. I don't know. It's a 2-year suspension from the campus and their games. I don't really think that's
right. By the time the 2-year suspension's done, crowds will be back in full effect anyway.
Yeah, exactly. They're looking at crowds right now. But
so what's the point of him going anyway?
Right. And another thing is while we're on the topic, they don't pay their athletes, the NCAA, and they bring in billions of dollars a year. So maybe
that's the other side of it, right?
That's the other side.
That's the other side that a lot of the people on the internet are taking, is that, oh wow, NCAA and LSU is doing this about someone giving back, but yet don't let the players profit off their names.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's not the end of the world. He shouldn't have done it. Punishment was handed out. I don't think it came from LSU directly. I think they were directed by the NCAA and told, look, you deal with this or you're getting the punishment. So they just got ahead of it and said, look, we'll just suspend the guy from our campus for 2 years. He's not allowed at our games. Like you said, there's not going to be crowds anyway. So I'm sure he's got bigger things to worry about, right? Like he's playing in the NFL. He's not scouting at college football games. So
yeah. Speaking about Odell giving to those were, I think that was Justin Jefferson too. He was a rookie now, and he's a rookie on the Minnesota Vikings now as well. And speaking of rookies, we're going into the topic of the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm not going to butcher it either, but Tua.
Call him Tua.
Has officially taken over the starting quarterback position down in South Beach, and much to Ryan Fitzpatrick's dislike. And a lot of people are on two sides of the fence because they don't agree with how he approached it publicly to the media. And some people are like, okay, well, it's his dream, his hard-earned passion that he didn't want to give up this role. I guess since I'm here stating it, I'll ask you what you think and where you stand on this side.
It's two sides of this. Sports is a business. How do you make money in sports? You win. How do you win? You put the best available player in. Is Tua the best available quarterback right now for the Dolphins? Probably. It's pretty close, but that's up to the coaching staff. Their decision was Tua's our best available quarterback right now. Let's throw him in there, see how he does. The personal side of it, apparently he was fired over a Zoom call, and in the meeting, it was the owner, the GM, and Tua was in the call as well. So it was the four of them sitting in there. So Fitzpatrick was pretty much fired from his job, or demoted, I guess you could call it, because he's still with the team. Demoted to the second string quarterback in the same room as the guy who's taking his job. And then his kids found out about it through social media and not through them, and not through their dad, obviously. So I see both sides of it. In sports, you want to win, but there's also the personal touch where it's like, okay, these guys are still human beings. Let's have a little bit of human decency here. I mean, you're allowed in facilities, and I don't think Miami was on a facility lockdown at this point, so they could have had them into the room and say, look, we're going to break this to media in an hour. Why don't you go home, tell your family and all that? But also, that happens in football, right? It happens in all sports. If you're not living up to what the team's expecting of you, you're going to be replaced. You're playing at the highest level in sports. So sometimes you just got to take it on the chin and say, okay, how can I be a good teammate here? He's mentoring a rookie. So that's a big responsibility in itself. And the trade deadline's coming up. If you don't want to be sitting on the bench or coming in just for set plays or waiting around until maybe Tua fails, so you're going back in, ask for a trade. There's tons of teams out there who are going to want a middle of the pack quarterback because there are
experienced.
Right. There are some awful teams who don't have a quarterback at the moment. So he will have places to go if he wants out. But just to reiterate my point, in sports, you want to win. They felt it was the best decision. That's the decision they made. If they pulled it off effectively, I don't know about that one.
So speaking, we'll stay on the topic of NFL quarterbacks. You mentioned something earlier about Baker in a quote. You want to say what that was about?
Yeah, I just thought it was a really weird quote because the Browns have had they're doing well compared to what they usually do. They're 4-2, but he was caught saying that it feels like they're 0-6, which.
What does that mean?
I don't really know what he meant by that. I just thought it was it just kind of stood out to me because the Browns have been 0-6 before, and I don't think that's how it would feel. Like you've won 4 games, you're 4-2, you're doing well, you're probably going to make the playoffs, and he goes out and says it feels like they're 0-6. I just trying to be a hothead, I think, and impress to the fan base, saying that he's not going to take anything below perfection, which is, if you're a high-level athlete, you're not going to take anything below perfection. I just thought it was a really weird quote. I don't think we really need to take much away from it. But saying that you feel like you're 0-6, I mean, go ask the Jets how they feel. I'm sure it's a million times worse than what you're feeling sitting at 4-2, right? So,
yeah, I guess Baker likes to talk. He likes to say things just to say things.
And he's always loud after a win and feathers after a loss.
Very loud.
But
yeah.
I just thought it was a weird quote. That's all. Saying you're 0-6 after a 4-2 start. Okay. Oh, excuse me. Did you see the coaching staff of the Cowboys? So the Cowboys have been off to a little bit of a rocky start. And we don't know who said it, but they leaked it to The Athletic, who first reported this, saying that numerous players have come forward anonymously to say that the coaching staff is unprepared, delusional, and don't know what they're doing. So there's something going on down in Dallas there. I don't know. That's not what you want to hear coming from your change room. What are your thoughts on that?
No. And, from a personal side, obviously, we're nobody, but I listen to Undisputed, and that's the one with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. And not that I listen to it religiously, but if I catch it live on YouTube one morning, I'll tune in, as long as it's usually about basketball or some football topics. But what strikes me as the most important thing about the show is how much I really dislike almost both of the personalities, but definitely Skip Bayless more. And Skip Bayless's heart-to-heart favorite team is the Dallas Cowboys, so he's had a lot to say on all these situations. And as a fan and a viewer watching him have to make up reasons to cover up why he likes a different team at the moment, or why he says things about another team, even though he says he'll always have the Cowboys back. It's great to see the Cowboys almost, and I don't like to say, okay, so I'll clear this up before I say it. As a Giants fan, okay, NFC East in general, disregarding and not including this because I feel for Dak Prescott and the injury. Yeah. This has nothing to do with him getting injured and the time he's out. Completely aside from Dak Prescott and the injury, I love to see the downfall of the Dallas Cowboys and America's team.
I think most people do.
I know a lot of people who are on their side, and I know a lot of people who are not on their side, and I don't stand for a lot of things that they do, and I don't agree with a lot of the decisions among, some of their higher organizational management, but that has nothing to do with the fact that everything's bigger. So completely aside from Dak Prescott's most recent injury here that has seen him sidelined for, the rest of the season for sure, or I think. So without including Dak Prescott's injury, I do enjoy watching the Dallas Cowboys suffer in a sense. It's hard to be a Dallas fan, I'm sure, especially with expectations that comes from being America's team. But as I was saying, with Ezekiel Elliott still healthy and a coaching staff that you thought would do something more game plan wise coming from Green Bay, right?
Yeah.
And you thought that it would bring a little bit of experience. And even with your guaranteed veteran backup in Andy Dalton, you thought you would get a little bit of a more value for what you have missing Dak Prescott. So like I said, excluding Dak Prescott getting injured, I do enjoy the Dallas Cowboys suffering. And so back to these rumors coming out about the unpreparedness, that is what also strikes me. The coaching staff coming from Green Bay. Maybe you think, I don't know if I think this, but obviously these rumors start coming out after Dak goes down. So maybe you think that the coaching staff doesn't think there's any more of a chance after that. Maybe the coaching staff thinks Dak was their only, but you have Ezekiel Elliott, who's supposed to be someone who can hold down a complete game for you, right? So
yeah, I mean, maybe they were just hitting the panic button for that week because they didn't really know what was going on.
And that's just sports. So
it was also a really bad loss. Like they got blown up.
That's what I mean, right? Don't you have a veteran quarterback who's led a team, and he has what you thought would be a little bit of a better roster from where he's been. But this also leads in, the Dallas Cowboys will lead right into a former Dallas Cowboy in Dez Bryant. Some Baltimore Ravens news. Do you know anything about that?
No idea. I saw you wrote this down. So
perfect. I'll go right into it. I know the Baltimore Ravens recently signed someone else or picked up someone else in a his last name is like
I know who you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they recently picked up Yannick Nakawui. This is gonna be a fun blooper, but they recently picked him up as a defensive end, and along with that, they said sources say that Baltimore Ravens are taking an active look at Dez Bryant. And then I saw another tweet actually following that from a different source that was saying pending approval on Dez Bryant's health medical checkup or medical clearance, that he will be available and that his first destination will be the Baltimore Ravens. So as a NFL fan, I know that you are, how do you see this fitting in with the running game of Lamar and what he already has, and where do you see Dak fitting in?
Would he go? Would he go to the practice squad first?
He would start. I've heard that it would start at the practice squad. So how long do you think it would? Do you think he would see any NFL time this year?
Tough to say. I don't know where his health's at. He hasn't played in a year and a half, 2 years. That's tough to come back from, especially in a game intense as football. I mean, it would definitely strengthen the Ravens, and it's tough. We'd have to see how he's like, what his medical's like, how he's.
It's a slow week in NFL when we're speculating about Dez Bryant once again.
Yeah, I mean, but we got some good games this Sunday. I'm not worried about that.
So we'll lead right into that.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the Dez Bryant talk yet. Well, I was looking at the spreads for the weekend. I always look at them just to look at it if there's any fun storylines, but 12.5 point spread in the Bills game. Bills are favored by 12.5, which I thought about it. I thought it was generous at first, and then I remembered how terrible the Jets were, and I put money on the Bills in that game. It's a 12.5 point win, and I think it'll probably go down a little bit as we get closer to the game, but it just goes to show you how people are banking on the Bills to do well this year and not banking on the Jets to do well at all.
Yeah. Okay. One last thing. actually, now that you mentioned the Jets again, because I forgot that who the Bills were playing this weekend. I've actually saw a couple other sources on Twitter, apparently some professional sources, recommend to Trevor Lawrence if he or the Jets were to get the official or first overall pick, that he would to stay back in the NCAA another season to avoid the disaster that is New York. Have you seen anything about that?
I saw that, and I think any athlete in their right mind would not do that. Like, why are you?
Why would you? You think you should go straight to the Jets?
Yeah, go pro. That's your goal in life, right? And if you're the athlete you think you are, you're going to make that team better. By that logic, Joe Burrow should have just gone back after playing in college, and then just gone, said, no, I'm not going to the Bengals, right? Like, if every athlete did that, no, you don't get to, especially in your rookie year, you don't get to choose who you play for. Mm-hmm. And what if there's a team the next year that's just as bad, which it would probably be the Jets, right? Like, you just,
you know what? So you hope you sit and wait, really, I guess, because that's those are the things that happen when there's a dry stretch in the media world, is people say things to stir up an imaginary pot. And on Trevor Lawrence's behalf, the Jets are an NFL franchise that needs turning around,
right?
And that is what a superstar potential player would like to do.
You're also getting $1 million. You're also getting $1 million paycheck, multi-million-dollar paycheck, right? You're not going to go back to school and miss out on that. Plus, it might put you in a negative light, right? Like, teams might look on that like, oh, he's afraid to lose. So,
right,
like,
could cast a spell on his future draft status.
Yeah, I mean, but if he's got the talent everyone's saying he has, I've only seen him play a couple times, and he does look like the real deal. But I don't know. I just think it would be a bad career decision. But what do I know? I'm not a D1 college quarterback, even though I got the arm for it. But yeah, the spreads this weekend are interesting. We got some good games.
You want to lead us into the NBA?
Yeah. Do you have anything else doing on the NFL? I don't really.
No, I don't.
A little slow news cycle week in the NFL.
So we have a lot more to get to, though.
Yeah. So the NBA. So in NBA news, the Raptors found a home in the States because obviously they are just anticipating looking forward that they won't be able to travel back and forth without the quarantine. But just a side note to that, Calgary Airport is testing rapid testing, which could speed up the quarantine process. So let's fingers crossed for that. But back to the Raptors. They are looking at playing in the KFC Yum Arena, which is only the second stupidest arena name we have this week because the Colorado Avalanche changed the Pepsi Center to the Ball Arena. Whatever you guys do, you. About 8 hours later, it came out that the Raptors players said, no, we will not be playing there. This is where Breonna Taylor was shot, and we can't deal with the injustice about it, and we will not play and support in a place like this, which, fair enough, good for you. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, so obviously, as you just said, the KFC Yum Arena, all capitals. I don't know if it's home to the university team in Kentucky. Yeah, so it is home to the university team.
Men's and women's.
Shout out Tyler Hero. But so it was crazy the news day that was happening, because you had first seen the leaks that this was a plan, that the only Canadian team in the NBA was having to find a facility again in the States to maybe join the league next year instead of traveling, which you said is obviously different in Toronto than Calgary maybe right now. Mm-hmm. And that wouldn't be very effective if we were to fly out sideways and then go down south every time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
play out of Calgary for
the decisions coming down. I don't even know why it was this out of everywhere in the States to be Louisiana, Kentucky, KFC, Yum Arena, that they decided to start this. But as you said, quickly, as the discussions were happening to finalize this, the Raptors, I think it was either internally, the players even with the management staff, had quick phone calls discussing how they felt it wasn't appropriate, or they didn't want to be a part of being in the same area of where those injustices had happened among Breonna Taylor. So they had quickly shut that down. And a few hours later, you had thought you were receiving the same article about the same thing about them going down south. But if you read the wording carefully, if you read the wording properly, it was quickly shut down by the Raptors leaders. And I mean, obviously, as much as you want to see basketball as a fan, you have to agree with as much Black Lives Matter movement that the Raptors continue to take.
Mm-hmm. Obviously they're going to need somewhere to play.
Right.
I think there's tons of other places they can play at. I mean, they could go play in Buffalo. I'm sure they have a basketball court they can play on.
That'd be great. I'd love to see that.
I mean, the Jays did it, but the Jays did look at 2 other arenas. But it also, I don't think the NBA mandated that they look for somewhere to play. I think the Raptors were jumping ahead of the curve because that's how their management just works and their ownership. They're always looking ahead and seeing how they can get ahead of these things and these curves. But 2 big stories out of this: the players are still standing by the injustice and standing for what they represent. But
still
also,
no justice for there is still, and the fact is there is still no justice for Breonna Taylor.
No, there isn't. There isn't. But they're also looking at places to play in the States, which we might not have NBA basketball and MLB baseball here. And that's
for the foreseeable future.
And that's looking in the next year because the NBA probably won't tip off until, what was that date? January 13th?
Early to mid January.
Yeah. So and then the MLB doesn't start up again until April. So they're predicting that we're not going to have live sports here into early 2021. And
and I don't know how much that has to do with like Canada's guidelines around COVID-19. It's just that the majority in the percentiles that control the leagues of the professional leagues in North America are centered in America. So that's where you have to play.
Right. And I also think it deals with like how the states are handling the coronavirus pandemic, right? Like they are not on top of it. If you look at the numbers here, and yeah, we have a smaller population, but just look at the percentages of people. Our percentages are down. Theirs are up. Our numbers are up, but the amount of people getting tested, and if you just look at all the stats, we're doing a lot better. So until they can get it under control, those borders aren't opening, which means teams can't travel. And if they do travel, it'll be for 2 weeks and you have to quarantine and all that stuff. And you can't go fly to Miami, quarantine for 2 weeks just to play one basketball game, right? So I think they were just jumping ahead of the curve, getting a home arena in the States so they don't have to do the whole quarantine thing. They would just have to do it once when they fly out. And I mean, that's one of the downsides of having only one Canadian basketball team and one Canadian baseball team. At least with hockey, if the travel ban is still in effect, we can do an all Canadian division. You just play the same 6 teams over and over again. Obviously there's 7, but you're playing 6. And then that's that. But these 2 teams that are kind of isolated up here in Canada, they're going to have to figure something out if the travel ban's not lifted. And it's kind of a shame that we just won't, looking like we won't have those teams up here. I know we can't go and see them, but it's still kind of a national thing.
It doesn't feel like the Toronto Raptors.
Right. Like the Jays didn't feel like the Toronto Blue Jays this year. They were playing in Buffalo.
Yeah. So we'll stay with the NBA and we'll actually stay with the Raptors here. And I've had to do a little bit of research myself, but the Raptors are losing their now former assistant coach. I'm going to try to pronounce his name correctly. Nate Bjorkgren. Yeah. Maybe Bjorkgren. And he is coming off of a...
Yeah, how long was his run there?
Sorry?
How long was his run there? It was a couple of years.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. He was during his...
I think he came in with Nick Nurse.
Yeah, that's what he said. So he came in with Nick Nurse prior to working with Nick Nurse somewhere else, potentially. And so he was actually, I always saw him on the bench, especially when they won their championship. I always saw him being vocal in the cuddles, which is something because I had to recognize him by his face to go back and memorize where I saw him from. But he's also had experience with the Phoenix Suns in the D-League and a high school coaching career. And now he's landed a head coaching job with Indiana. And this is great. It shows, obviously it's not great if you're looking towards the mind that he brought towards the Raptors and how effective it was. Who knows if we can keep some of his mentoring and his skills. But for him on a personal level, as a Raptor, as Masai Ujiri to say, to someone that he'd helped develop and bring into the organization as someone who did not have a head coaching history at all, give them this great opportunity in the NBA. it's beautiful to be a part of that Raptors family.
Yeah.
The winning, the success, and the strategy that comes with that. And Indiana has always been a team that's been so close to being some team. And so they've been looking for parts and parts and parts. And maybe the part they've been looking for is a strategical coach. And they have a lot of young talent that can be very explosive. And I want to see if Nate's possible of creating change, because that'd be beautiful. And maybe one day we could see the Raptors versus that young team out there in Indiana in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And we all know how that fun.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be.
I think it just goes to show, like, bringing in Nick Nurse was the right decision. And at the time, a lot of people were against him getting the role. You know, obviously, we never got an official story, but it sounded like he went to ownership and management and said, look, this is what I can do that Dwayne Casey isn't doing. And it was kind of, the rug was pulled from underneath Coach of the Year at the time, Dwayne Casey. And it reflects the leadership and skill set that Nick Nurse has brought to the Raptors, that one of his assistant coaches has now got a head coach job. And I don't think you need to see that as a loss or a failure as an organization. You need to say, like, hey, we're doing some really good things here, that not just players, but coaching staff and people within the organization that we're developing are getting bigger jobs. Like, you can only hold people back for so long, right? So good on him. I just think it's a nice story to have, and we'll see how he does. Obviously, an assistant coach to a head coach is a big jump. You got a lot more responsibility. You're a lot more vocal. You got to be the bad guy. Assistant coaches are used to kind of bounce frustrations off and all that, because you don't really vent to the head coach. You talk to the assistant coaches, and they kind of take the blunt of the, guess you could call it abuse. But now you're a head coach. You got to, be hard on the players. Hopefully he has that in him. So yeah, it's a good hire, and good for him. Any final thoughts on that?
Yeah. The last, I guess it also leads into the coaching. The last thing on the NBA is the Pelicans have found their new head coach in Stan Van Gundy, and a lot of people, as soon as that news broke, sent out some videos of coach dribbling up the ball, and he's got a very big physique, very similar to Zion's, and he had handles, and that went viral. And he's got some skill, he's got some experience, I don't know if he's had some championship experience, but he's been close in the finals, and he's been close to bringing teams to the playoffs and finals. He's had some he's had some interesting histories in his recent coaching career, and he's a very vocal guy off the court, and I guess he's an interesting man too, looking, and I'm excited to see if he can bring something new to a team in New Orleans that has a lot of potential to actually make an exciting run with Zion, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo, JJ Redick, and a bunch of other young talented troopers like that could do something.
Yeah, that Pelican team is exciting, and I think they just got a whole lot more exciting, especially with Zion out there. I think hopefully he plays the full season this year, because
stays healthy.
He is fun to watch. I enjoyed watching him play. MLB, I'm just going to be quick on the MLB because I'm not really interested in the World Series, but I know a couple people are. World Series is tied 1-1. Game 1 was boring. But Game 2, the Dodgers pulled their pitcher, and he was the first pitcher pulled within 4 outs since, I think, 1916. So before he even got 4 outs, he was pulled from the game. That's not good.
Who was the pitcher?
I have no idea. I just saw it. But I just saw that stat, and I thought,
well, you know what? Like you said at the beginning, it's only one series going on, and with the Jays being so close to where they were, you just always see the same teams, you feel like, in the MLB World Series. So if it's something interesting highlight-wise, it'll catch our attention, but we'll go right into something we care about, and that is hockey.
There was one interesting highlight from the MLB game. Somebody hit a home run, and the guy in the crowd caught it because they have crowds.
Threw his glove back.
And he threw his glove on the field for some reason. So that was the best thing to come out of that game.
What is that even?
I don't know. I guess he got really excited. His dad never played catch with him or something. I don't know. he didn't know how it
Just
worked.
trying to trade gloves.
Yeah, here, take this one. I don't know, but that was all I took out of that game. So yeah, NHL All-Star Game and Winter Classic postponed. I don't think that's taken anybody by surprise. Shame for the Florida market because they were getting the All-Star Game, and I think the players would have really enjoyed going there because they treat the All-Star Game as a vacation. Surprise to nobody, or if you're hearing this for the first time, the players don't care about the All-Star Game. It's a vacation for them. But you know, I don't think that really surprises anybody at all. They just pushed it back a year, so it'll take place exactly a year from when they were supposed to.
Yeah, just like everything else occurring in the sports world as an event, there's changes and there's postponements, and
didn't really surprise me at all. But
you can't be taken off guard right now.
Yeah, but we won't be getting a hardest shot competition, I guess. Whatever. So the virtual GM meetings are today, and they're probably going on right now, actually. I think they were scheduled to start at 2:30. So they are virtual, they're over Zoom, and they're discussing a couple things. They're talking about the AHL, how they're going to do that. So the AHL owners are actually involved as well in their GMs. The revenue and the worst case scenario for what happens, because they still do have to pay the players, and they need to map out how they're going to make money if there's no crowds. The free agent talking period. So in the CBA now, they ruled out the free agent talking period. So I believe they got 3 to 4 days where you could talk to free agents before the signing period. And this was mainly because on Free Agent Frenzy Day, the NHL wanted eyes on them and entertainment value for people watching. So they said, okay, let's give these teams a chance to talk to the free agents. And so then on signing day, we have a bunch of signings. So they're talking about all that. I don't know what's going to come out of it. If anything, there's probably going to be a couple meetings. And they're also talking about probably the most important thing, a format for next season, or to at least come up with a plan for that. What do you think is going to come out of this meeting, if anything at all?
Yeah, I'm a lot more aware of these meetings when they occur naturally in the calendar order, because usually they occur in the warm, sunny Florida when we're all in like July and August, and you're watching on Sportsnet, and they're all in their suits down by the beach taking these meetings and by the hotels. So that's when you actually hear about what they talk about. But when it's over virtual and it's kind of secreted in terms of how much information is let out, it's kind of hard to anticipate what's going to come out of something like this. I mean, obviously, the good thing is that the NHL season just ended, and we're trying to discuss as much as we can to make playing in the future as easy and accessible for all the teams as possible. So I hope one thing that gets discussed is this Canadian division.
Yeah. I saw that Canadian division. I saw a model. So like a predictive. They use play from the past, a bunch of math. It's a lot of math, analytics, and stuff like that. And I don't know how correct it was. It was from somebody on Twitter who was unverified, and I read a little bit about their model, and it seems somewhat legit. But you can never take those models with too much seriousness. So I always take it with a grain of salt.
It's still good. It's still interesting to see though, because it's
but this one almost seemed
you don't see much.
This one almost seemed faked because it had the model. It had the Leafs with 128 points in first place, which I got a good laugh out of because it's funny that people would predict that. But also, if that actually happened, the outroar that people would have saying it's not a legitimate season. So I have the projected standings right here. They have the Leafs in first with 123 points, Flames in second with 89, followed by Canadians at 85, Oilers at 82, Jets at 81, Canucks at 78, and Senators at 52. So you would have second through sixth place within 11 points of each other, which would be pretty entertaining. But to have the Leafs at 123 points, then the Flames at 89, if that actually happened, that'd be really funny. Just to see the outrage, but it's a predictive model. Who knows?
Yeah.
And that's if that Canadian division even happens. I mean, I don't think anybody really knows.
Yeah, man. Sticking with hockey, actually, you want to tell us about we have a very special women's sports episode being developed
Yeah.
in the making at the moment. We're going to touch on a lot of aspects regarding women in sports. Right now, we're doing more of a generalized podcast. However, we do have some announcements because they're very current. Josh, do you want to start with the PWHPA?
Yeah, so the PWHPA, it's a branch off of it's a separation from the NWHL since the CWHL folded, and it's made up of female hockey players who are looking for and deserve a proper place to play where they could have the resources and money that is on par with the NHL, and they want to be able to live off the salaries they make playing the sport they love and not have to worry about having a second job and all that stuff like that. There's a lot more behind it, but we're going to get into that on our Wednesday episode, which is going to be a special women in sports episode where we're going to interview a couple women in sports, and they're going to tell us their thoughts and opinions on it, because obviously Brandon and I are not in a place to speak from there. So it's only fair we give them their voice and share their experience with us. So they recently, yesterday actually, landed a $1 million sponsorship deal from Secret Deodorant. And it is the single largest sponsorship deal in women's hockey to date. So hopefully there's more to follow. Like, this is really promising and exciting news. What this means is the PWHPA do a Dream Cap tour. So they tour around all of North America. They're hoping to get to Europe, but that probably won't be until further down the line now. And they put on pretty much a mini showcase tournament. They did it last year, and it was successful, but the players weren't compensated enough for it because obviously it was a startup. They didn't have enough money to pay everybody. So what this will do, it'll provide cash winnings for the winning team and second place teams. And it's just promising because now it shows that people are interested in women's hockey and they're willing to invest in it and give these ladies a place to play properly. And that Dream Gap tour, it's going to take it up a step. I went to the one in Toronto, and it was really good. Like, it's good hockey. There's Olympians playing on the ice, and it was good hockey. And this is going to put some eyes on it because I saw Twitter was talking about it yesterday. You got the typical people saying, "Oh, why do they deserve this?" And those people just, fuck off. Like, women's hockey is it's exciting. It's really good. And they deserve
equal sweat, equal opportunity is exactly what we're going by here.
And we're going to get more into that on our Wednesday episode. But this was kind of paired along with an article released by Sean Fitzgerald over at The Athletic. And it was an article about why there's no more, or why females don't want to work in sport. And the article was, it was really revealing, and it pretty much, I'll put the link in our bio, in our description, but pretty much it went into detail about how women are what represented in sports, and not just the playing area, but like broadcasting. It was using broadcasting as an example. And it was showing that like only 3%, and these numbers from 2008 at the time, only 3% of radio stations had women being represented and all that. And the boundaries they have to break through, and how it was an all old white guys club, and all the things said in this article were true. Nothing was fake. Nothing was made up. Nothing was false. I really encourage you to read the article. I think it's a free article on The Athletic because of the popularity it got. But it was really revealing, and I think it just went to show a little peek behind the curtain about how blind we can be to this stuff sometimes. But you throw on the radio, like if I threw on TSN this morning for 10:50, first up, it's 2 male hosts, and the producers are 2 male, and then you go forward and they have Leafs Lunch, and that has a female host, and it's the only radio station I can think of that has a female primary host. I know Sportsnet has some panelists on that that are female, but they don't have full-time positions there, and I find that their input is sometimes, or most of the time, better than the echo chamber we hear from the people always on the station. So this article, it really opened my eyes and a lot of people's eyes to see the battles they can go through. And we are going to have, like I said, an episode dedicated to women in sports, and hopefully we can get some more look into this. That'll be dropping on Wednesday. Do you have any follow-up to that?
Yeah, I'm actually was just researching on theathletic.com why do so few women work in sports radio. You have an article written by Sean Fitzgerald and Lisa Dillman.
Yeah.
I'm trying to gain a little bit more access to it. I can't necessarily right now. But yeah, I'm just starting to read it right now, and to go off of our coming up episodes, we have a few more guests. If you've been paying attention to our Instagram, we've already had one, and we're trying to get as many experienced females as Joss mentioned, because in sports, because um, we're not, me and Josh personally are not in a position to talk
No.
about how things are. We believe, because we are not females, and we totally believe that uh, using our connections, that we could help gauge what huge gap is still there among recreational, professional, and amateur sports between women and men stereotypes by by showing you the diversity that sport brings, and the people that, most importantly, the females that sport creates, and how athletics have helped these females in so many ways.
Right. And if we can get one of you, just one of you, to tune into a women's league game from that episode, then we'll consider our goal done. But we just really want to get make this aware. It's an issue in today's society, and we will get into that on Wednesday. So I think we're going to leave it at that with that topic. Otherwise, we'll be going on for hours and hours about it. You got here the CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
You want to
So
talk about that?
This is interesting to me. This will cap off probably what our podcast consists of today.
Well, actually, does not start the CrossFit Games yet, because I forgot to write this down. World Juniors.
There we go.
World Juniors. So the numbers are rising in Alberta, and they are extremely concerned about the upcoming feasibility of the World Juniors, because if the teams have to quarantine when they're flying in and the rapid test is not available, they will have to arrive on December 13th. So that is just under a month and a half away. So they're going to do the bubble format that the NHL did. They showed it worked. There are 0 positive cases. But the only difference is with the World Juniors, you're dealing with teenagers. So a couple of issues that have been brought up. Do we want these teenagers to be flown out here 2 weeks before and then pretty much be isolated from everybody for 2 weeks? I think they'll be willing to make that sacrifice to play on the worldwide stage, but it is something they need to look at, because mental health is definitely a big issue in the bubbles. And will they be able to pull it off? Because it's not the NHL, it's a double IHF run event. So will they be able to do a bubble to the same effect that the NHL did? I think they'll be able to do it. It is a smaller scale tournament with a significantly less number of players and staff. I think it'll still go forward, but it's just something to keep an eye on in case numbers in Alberta keep going up. They were at a record the other day, so they are just monitoring that and making sure that it's under control and to be able to be contained. Also, Canada's schedule was released. Well, the whole tournament schedule was released, and for the first time ever, they are going to play on Christmas Day. So there will be games on Christmas. Canada will not be playing on Christmas, though. They kick off the tournament on Boxing Day. And I'm just pulling up their schedule here because I don't want to mix up the teams they're playing. But they're in a pretty easy pool. They don't have to play Russia. They don't have to play the States. They don't have to play Sweden this year. So they kick off their tournament on Boxing Day against Germany. And then December 27th, they're going to play Slovakia. Then they get a day off. Then they're playing Switzerland on the 29th. And then on New Year's Eve, they're playing Finland, which will probably be their hardest game of the round robin. So I think people are going to be anticipating an easy round robin for Canada. I think it's going to be a little harder than they think it is, because Germany, Slovakia, Switzerland, and Finland all have amateur hockey being played right now. So these players are going to have experience playing. Obviously, the OHL isn't being played right now, and the WHL and QMJHL are all having COVID issues. So we'll see how that goes. But it's long time in my memory that they haven't had to play Russia or the States. So hopefully we get that matchup in a gold medal game, because that's where it matters, right? Like, it's all fun and games playing the States in a round robin game on New Year's Eve or Boxing Day, but Canada, US in a gold medal game, nothing better than that, right? Like, completely,
Yeah.
So hopefully the World Juniors happen. It'll be nice to have hockey back after not having it since the end of June. So
That'd be great, honestly.
yeah, it'll be all eyes will be on the tournament. It'll be exciting, but hopefully those COVID numbers stay down. They're able to pull off the bubble, so it'll be good.
Yeah. So lately, I've been paying a little bit of attention to the CrossFit Games, and what the CrossFit Games are historically is a large group gathering of some of the most fit athletes on earth. And I know that CrossFit, the sport, whatever you'd like to call it, I'm not too familiar on it in terms of its generalizations and categorizations, rather.
My understanding is that you take your max from like a regular lift and you make that your regular. So if your max is a 200-pound bench press, you make that your regular. That's the goal you have with it, which sounds
so CrossFit is a very interesting type of training, and the techniques involved are actually mind-blowing when I see the CrossFit Games televised. And so what they've been doing is historically they've been having these big events, and they like to gather some of the best competitors around the world, and they get them into a big facility known as the ranch. But the ranch has been demoted to 5 men and 5 women this year. And so what had happened in the past is that there would probably be about 30 men and 30 females competing for each different strongest competition awards.
Don't touch the wire.
I wasn't.
There you go. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. So to finish off, honestly, about this CrossFit Games, so I don't act like I know what I'm talking about too much. The 2020 CrossFit Games are interesting because the submissions that were received were like online videos of people working out and taking their tests, and the committee like organized the best 5 men and 5 women from across the world out of this, and they bubbled them in the States at this ranch, and they do maybe a couple days worth of events, and then it's actually pretty entertaining because they put their body through a lot of stress and a lot of situations that you didn't think were known as a sport. And this is something that is important because it's a niche type of market that brings a different type of view on the traditional hitting the gym and hitting the weights and doing stereotypical weightlifting. There's things like these people do handstands in a little square for as long as they can, just as a simple display of strength. Today they had 30-pound and 60-pound, if you're a male, sacks of corn on their back and ran up a straight 100-meter hill. So it's very, very vigorous. And then one last event that I've seen them do is they've let me catch it up. They'll do these circuits that contain pull-up bars, push-ups, like deadlift cleans, and it's just a rotational as fast as you can do reps, and it's super demoting to an average athlete to see how easy they make it look. But I just wanted to mention the CrossFit Games really briefly because I feel like we should touch on every sport possible if it comes across our view.
For sure.
And although we're going to touch a lot more like the NHL, NBA, MLB, and NFL a lot more often, the CrossFit Games are occurring right now, and that's what's relevant right now. And if you guys are out there and you're interested, I'd love to hear what you have to say about CrossFit in general, how you work out, if you work out at all, if you prefer CrossFit, and do you watch the CrossFit Games? Like, am I just in a little weird situation where I'm in a small group of people who know about it and watch it, or is the CrossFit Games something that you guys have seen as well? And if not, you can go on YouTube and you can find it right now over this weekend, I'm sure, and you can give it a good look. And it's the 5 best men, 5 best women from across the world, so it's very directed, and you can sit there and feel a little bit depressed, or you can feel a little bit motivated. Your choice.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it till then. It kind of way you described it reminds me of like the world's strongest man competition, or like those.
Yeah, so it is very similar, and a lot of the athletes that do that are doing this as well.
Okay, so yeah, around the same
So,
same thing.
I know very little on it right now, and I don't want to sound knowledgeable by any means, but I did a little bit of research and I watch a lot, and I'm gonna come back at you with a lot more knowledge if anything interesting happens. I promise.
Sounds good. All right, I think that wraps us up for today. You can find us on pretty much any streaming platform now. The only one we're having issues with is Google Play. I haven't been able to get us up on there yet, but I believe that's on their end, not ours. So Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, YouTube, anywhere you can find podcasts. Like our YouTube page, Instagram page, follow us on Twitter. We're pretty much everywhere. If you want to come on and talk about your sporting experience, literally just send us a message and we'll book you. We do have a special guest on Monday coming on to talk about I'll do a little bit of a teaser. He made an app for fantasy hockey, and he actually created a stat that I believe is used by NHL teams now. So that's going to be a fun conversation. I'm excited about that one because I'm really into analytics. And if you're not, just stay for the hockey talk. And then our all episode on Wednesday will be an all females in sports talk. That won't just be about them on the court or on the ice or on the field. It'll be about in like all over sports. So broadcasting, marketing, event planning, all that stuff. So that'll be a very good episode. We're really excited about that. And then we'll be back on the following Friday. So we're going to do 3 episodes next week. And then the Friday will just be a regular episode. We'll try and get a guest on there too, but it might just be the two of us yelling at each other about the Thursday night football game. So for now, thanks for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, message us, and we will see you on Monday.